Hey guys, Laura from Gamespot here. I'm sitting down with Peter Molyneux today to talk about Fable 3. Hi Peter, thanks for joining us. Now, let's start with a very big question. Why do you think that Fable 3 is your most important Fable game to date?
Gosh, that's a very hard question to ask. I mean, I could just say it's unquestionably the best of the Fable series. We love making Fables so much, and there's so much passion that's gone into the game. I could answer it like that. I could answer it like it's got the most unique story I've ever seen in the game. The idea of you being a revolutionary, be this bad guy called Logan. You overthrow him, you then become king, and then the game changes into you ruling the whole of Albion. I could answer it by saying that we've completely changed the combat system and we've got these evolving weapons, and we could answer it by saying that we've got a completely new interface which allows you to customize the stuff by John Cleese. We've got co-op, which is like co-op you haven't seen in any other game before. I mean, all of those things add up to Fable 3 being a truly great game, and we've always had a dream of making that great game.
Now, let's talk a little bit about the morality system. So, the Fable franchise has always dabbled with giving players moral choices, but in the past Fable games, it's been very black and white, good versus evil, that sort of thing. So, have you tried to improve on this in Fable 3? And do your in-game actions, for example, have real consequences that become evident as you play, rather than just adding points to a good meter versus an evil meter?
Yes, now here's the interesting thing about that. Firstly and foremostly, what we've come to realise is that the world is full of wimps. I'm sorry, but you all are.
I'm not a wimp.
No, I'm sorry. Here's the reason why. Because we made this morality system in Fable 1 and Fable 2, and we put a huge amount of work into good and into evil, and we thought, half the people in the world would choose evil, half would choose it. That's not true.
Everybody played as evil.
Everybody plays good.
Oh, really?
That's what I mean by wimps. It's especially Americans. Almost 90% of Americans play good.
I think people are afraid. Maybe they dabble in playing evil, but then they ultimately choose good because they're, afraid of what will happen or something.
Yeah, I know. We've all been encoded to be good guys. So, in Fable 3, yes, there is a few quests and there's a few choices between that. Is obviously, yes, that is clearly good or clearly evil. But a lot of the choices are a lot tougher. They're a lot more interesting choices. And there's this one philosophical argument. It goes like this, and I'm trying to give you an example without giving anything away in the game. 5 people are crossing a bridge. It's a rope bridge, and one of those people is very overweight. The rope bridge starts to snap when you're halfway across. There's no way you're going to reach either end. What do you do?
Kick the fat person off?
Well, what a terrible thing to do. You just kill. I now can reveal that he's one of the most wonderfully sweet, innocent people that will go on to find the cure for cancer. You've just killed him.
Sir, am I supposed to throw myself off?
Well, there is no correct answer to this problem, of course, but it is an interesting. It's not a moral problem, but it's a conundrum if you think of it like that. And in Fable 3, there's lots of times where I want you just to put down the controller for a second and think, what shall I do? Not what should a good guy do or an evil guy? What should I do? And so there's this other mechanic, which is a really cute mechanic. As you build up your revolution, you're going to make these promises to people. You're going to promise that when you're king, you're going to abolish slavery, you're going to close all the workhouses and replace them with schools, you're going to reinstate the lands to all these natives. All these promises you make, just like our politicians make promises to us before they're elected. And then when you become king, how many of those promises are you going to keep? And are you going to be able to keep?
Now, I want to know a little bit more about the advantages of gaining followers in the game, and can you explain a little bit about how that kind of aids players when they're playing the game?
Sure. I mean, this is another example of where I think someone like me comes in and thinks about things. And by the way, there's someone called Josh Atkins who's a fantastic designer. He's the lead designer He heads up the whole design team. But my point was this word experience. The word experience in gaming was created in paper play RPGs. And it, generally speaking, was about combat. It was experience in combat. And I love the mechanic, and I've played hundreds of games which has the word experience and going up levels. But the thing I hated about the word experience is it didn't really feed into the story at all. And our story was this. Act 1, you have to convince people to follow you before you can take out the king. Act 2, you're king. The more people that believe in you, I'm not going to say anything about this, but obviously that's important as well, that these followers. Now, if you replace the word experience with followers, that feeds into the drama, it makes sense in the story terms, and it's a great way of measuring your progress. At the start of the game, you've got 2 followers. When you take on Logan, when you storm the castle, you're going to have thousands and thousands of followers behind you, and that makes sense, and you can see that making sense in terms of levels. So I love that. And then lastly, and most importantly of all, is to say, right, you get followers for pretty much everything you do in the game. You get followers for fighting well, you get followers for marrying well, you get followers for making lots and lots of money, you lose followers for dying in combat, you lose followers for getting divorced, and you lose followers for losing money. And that means that followers is a mechanic that applies to almost the entirety of the game, which I really like.
Yeah. Now, speaking of new experiences, you did dabble with Connect for Fable 3,
Yes.
and then you kind of decided not to go with that. So, what was like? Okay, all right. Well, please tell me about Connect. Tell me.
Okay, so now here's the thing about Connect. I love. God, I'm saying I love a lot. This sounds really bad, but I really think Connect is a very important way of interfacing with games. A very different, or very new, and a very fresh way of interfacing with games. And the ability to be able to kind of feel closer to the world that is on the screen is unquestionable with something like Connect. But it takes us 2+ years to make a controller-based version of Fable. That's it's a long time. There's a lot of stuff to do. If you can imagine how much harder it is to do a game like a Fable experience for Connect, it's really tough, because you have to throw away the rule book and create another set of rules. So we could have done some gimmicky thing for launch of Connect and the launch of Fable, but it just didn't feel right.